That's not tilted sideways like I'm trying to be silly. Okay. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and my obnoxiously loud neighbors. This is Mike and Jace's Music and Garbage, episode uno, and we're here to talk about the music, the albums, the songs, everything in between that have changed our lives for the better and that continue to change our lives for the better. Of course, it's me, the captain of the Long Shots Sportscast, Mike Holm, and this is my hetero life mate, Jace Gunter.
Hello.
And Jace and I, we've been friends for a long time here. What is it now? 14 years?
Something like that, like sixth grade.
Yeah.
A little bit before
sixth grade. He was my first friend. I just started out over at Huntington, moving from the Longview area. And he mentioned something about dirty jobs, and I knew we were going to be buddies. And over the years, we formed a really strong bond over music. A bond unlike most of our peers, who kind of were into certain set genres, or whether it be either top 40 or video game OSTs or something. We kind of floated around and have expanded and have a bit of an eclectic taste here and there, and I find we're always showing each other new stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Whether I'll be like, hey, check this thing out, or you're like, hey, give these guys a listen. And we actually went to Tool together.
Yeah, 2014.
2014, man, that was a good year.
Yeah, it was a very good show.
Moda Center. Yeah, I remember that. One of the best visual shows I've ever seen, because they played all those visual like the videos and stuff that they'd done with it.
Excellent light show. One of the best light shows I've personally seen. Probably the only one that is as good or better was Tame Impala.
Nice.
Right before Corona hit, I went to the last show that Tame Impala, the first and last show that Tame Impala got to do on their tour. Excellent show. They actually opened with they didn't open with, but they played either like 3 or 4 brand new songs, new material, because they knew they weren't going to be able to continue the tour.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, that was excellent.
Sorry, that was the audio engineer portion of the show where I realized that Jace is on mic 4, and we haven't used mic 4 since we had Jacob on Long Shots episode 16.
Growing pains. It's all good.
Hey, it's episode 1, baby.
Yeah.
It's episode 1.
Yep. You're on the ground floor.
We're figuring it out.
That's right. It's only going to get better from here.
And you're right here with us.
Yep.
Because guess what else? This is the extra portion for YouTube, because I forgot to put Audacity on. We're having a good time. Okay. So we're going to do the intro a second time.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Just 2 dudes fucking around. All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mike and Jace's Music and Garbage, episode uno. Of course, if you listen to Long Shot Sportscast, you know me already. It's me. It's the Mike Holm. With me is my main amigo, Jace Gunter.
Hey, everybody.
And we're here just talking about music, the albums, the artists that have changed our lives and continue to change our lives. And the people, anybody watching the stream on YouTube, they're pretending that they haven't heard this already. Because Mike was screwing around for 3.5 minutes. Anyhow, Jason and I, we've been friends for 14 years. Over these years, we've been talking about music on and off, and we've shared bands with each other and concerts and everything else. And we've just formed this bond over some of the amazing stuff that has come out, continues to come out, that continues to wow us and really shape the way we view things. And the 2 albums that we're about to talk about here are no different. It's one of those things where there's some artists that you're just like everything, boom, 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 boom. And then with this one here, my choice in particular that we'll get to when we start talking about these in detail, I'd never really even heard of this band when I first heard about this album, the Mountain Goats. But anybody that listens to Long Shots knows I'm a big time pro wrestling fan.
Absolutely.
And I always have been. So when I hear, okay, here's an album about, Southern Territory, old school, like 70s, 80s style wrestling, back when everybody thought it was real and this and that. I had to jump on that immediately. And over
This
the
is
years,
very your style.
it's very my style. And over the years, as I've gone and I've come back to this thing, I just have such a great love and appreciation for this thing. It's one of those that you can enjoy if you're a fan, if you know, if you're still a fan, if you maybe were just a fan when you were a kid. There's something in there for everyone. But it's one of those that I've gone. I didn't know the band prior to this, but this one album in particular, it just seemed really special to me. And that's the funny thing about music, is you never know. Like, there's some albums that or some bands you're just like, okay, here's 5, 6 albums, all in a row that are just awesome. Like right here with your band, with the White Stripes here.
Absolutely.
I have every one of their CDs.
They're great.
And they're tremendous. And I keep telling, I tell my girlfriend, this is the band that got me into wanting to play guitar. Like the first time I ever heard, like, as cliche as it sounds, Seven Nation Army, or
it's iconic.
It is. It's played in,
iconic.
It's blared in sports stadiums everywhere, worldwide.
It really didn't even take it very long to rock it to the same kind of status as like a We Will Rock You.
No,
just a stadium rock folk song. I mean, people know Seven Nation Army by ear, even if they don't know who the White Stripes are.
Absolutely.
It's one of those.
I want to thank Dutch Bros for making the leakiest lid I've ever had on a coffee cup.
This is not sponsored.
You know what? I'm trying so hard to save the turtles, and you just see, no leak, no lid, no leak. All you have to do is drink your coffee like a grown-up and just have some hand-eye coordination. We don't need to trust lids to hold everything. You understand? You just have some wherewithal, and don't bring your babies or your puppies around all the goddamn time. We won't have a problem, huh?
No sippy cups.
See, right now, this is a puppy-free zone. My puppy's at daycare right now. My puppy's at daycare right now. We gave him a bath the other day, and because if we hadn't, he would be the crusty boy at school.
Can't have Bosa getting made fun of.
Dude, I'm sorry. This is not show related, but the Blazers Clippers, this is a nail biter. Anyhow. So yeah, and this is a thing where this show is going to have many formats. This show, first of all, it may not seem as formal as, say, Long Shots, where we're sitting here breaking down the news. This is a loosey-goosey kind of show, just talking and enjoying the music and other shit.
Yeah, heavily opinion based.
Heavily opinion, hence the garbage portion of the show.
Yeah,
because opinions are garbage. They are what you make of them, essentially. Right. One man's trash is another man's treasure,
Yep. Music appreciation has been a very enriching thing for my life, I know. And if it's something that I can share with someone else, that's even more enriching. I love to introduce people to new music that they wind up liking.
Absolutely.
And I fully intend to only bring albums to this podcast that I truly believe are high quality music. And the White Stripes is definitely one of them. Elephant especially. I think it's their magnum opus.
I was just going to say, yeah.
It is, it gets lumped a lot of the times. People say, White Stripes, it's garage rock or whatever. I actually completely disagree. I think it's blues rock played straight. Jack himself said, he started playing rock and roll so he had an excuse to play the blues live.
Yeah. Well, and with them, you can see his appreciation for blues music, but you can also see his appreciation for that 70s rock sound of, say, like a Zeppelin or something, especially in his vocals. His vocals absolutely are very reminiscent of that era, but that guitar work and that craft that comes with it is something really special. I mean, when they broke out, this was an era where, and I call it the TRL era, where rock wasn't what it was. I mean, because what happened was, obviously you had the hair bands when MTV first broke out and all that, and metal had a presence on there too. And once grunge happened, hair and all that was uncool. In fact,
very suddenly,
there's this interesting kind of interview tidbit I read it was a a Spin magazine from about almost 10 years ago now. They were talking about the 20th anniversary of Nevermind, and I believe it was one of the guys from Def Leppard. He said it was Pearl Jam, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Nirvana, and Def Leppard playing the 92 MTV Video Music Awards.
Yeah.
And he said, dude, we felt like the sacrificial lamb out there. Like that was how broadly the spectrum had shifted. But when we came out of grunge, you had like your weird, that mid 90s weirdness where these, bands like Cracker and Toadies and Harvey Danger and this is like my wheelhouse. Butthole Surfers, all these weird little bands were getting little one-off hits on rock. Marcy Playground, because they're trying to find that next sound
movement.
And none of them really stuck. And then as TRL and all that stuff got popular, we got hit with a wave of teen pop. It was that took over mainstream radio. Then it was just boy bands and stuff like that, and rock didn't know how to recover. So with rock, we went full new metal. Then the biggest rock bands in the world was Korn and Limp Bizkit. Limp Bizkit was the biggest rock band in the world at one point,
and hip hop influenced
very. I mean, rap rock was in, and their rock didn't have much of a mainstream presence, and then garage, that revolution kind of kicked in. White Stripes and Strokes, especially, then you had the Hives and stuff like that kind of were starting to break through, but it wasn't, you weren't hearing them on top 40 radio or anything like that. It wasn't anything close to grunge where this was cool. But it
wasn't the moment.
But it was definitely anti whatever was popular at the time, because as this, rock radio kind of took off, the mainstream rock radio kind of stuck to its guns with like, your Nickelbacks and Three Doors Downs and stuff like that. It's kind of weird. It's like two parallel universes that went on there.
Yeah, definitely.
But when they broke out though, it's just one of those interesting things, even though they're super popular in spite of not really ever having that top 40 status.
It's because they've been consistent.
Absolutely.
They have super fun songs, super easy to listen to songs on every single album. And what I think they do differently than a lot of their contemporaries is they are so blues throwback, because that's where rock came from. Rock came out of the blues.
Yeah. Howlin' Wolf.
Yeah. I mean, look at Led Zeppelin. They lifted so much. I mean, whether you want to call it homage or stealing is a matter of opinion.
Sure.
And, sometimes it goes one way, sometimes it goes the other, but that's where rock came from. Led Zeppelin came from blues. Basically, it all did.
Yeah.
And it had gotten so far away from that by the time that the White Stripes came around that Jack's soulful and emotional delivery and his tone and feel on the guitar and the amount of emotion over form or technique with his vocals really pulled rock back to its roots quite a bit.
Well, and I think, like you said, they were a fun band. I remember, I believe Toonami, back when we were kids, Toonami occasionally used to play music videos. Most people remember they played like all of Daft Punk, that Interstellar 5555.
Yeah.
They played the Gorillaz animated music videos. Yep. One that people forget is they played the video to the White Stripes "Fell in Love with a Girl," and
excellent music video.
Is one of the best music videos ever. All those Legos and stuff. I remember that. I mean, you got to think that was 01 or 02.
Yep.
I'm never gonna forget that video. And it's such a fast song. That song is only like a minute and a half long.
Yeah,
I know, because I can rip. It's one of the only songs when my girlfriend was trying to twist my arm into doing karaoke, I could rip through it like nothing, and then I'm like, I'm done. But it's such a right there, because I remember 12-year-old Mike did not really have much of a musical opinion yet.
Right.
It was very much prior to. And like the way I got way into music is the dumbest thing ever, I'm sure. But prior to really watching and being dialed into VH1, I watched, I I was really just into a couple artists that I liked growing up. Like I was a big Lenny Kravitz fan when I
Yeah.
was in like 6th grade, you know? But I remember, and this is also going to sound stupid. I remember seeing the White Stripes because when I saw the Lego video, I didn't know who the heck they were. I just remember going, "That's cool," you know, as an 8-year-old. Um, they were on an episode of The Simpsons.
You
There's
know what?
a,
I've seen pictures of
it's
that.
so funny. There's this thing where Bart gets a drum kit and he starts drumming, and they're doing the is it hardest button to button with the video where
Oh, where it's
they're
the drum
drumming
set
and
and it's
it's
like yeah,
which is another fun video.
yeah. It
He
is.
does that, and then the White Stripes are doing theirs,
Oh shit.
and they crash into each other, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, White Stripes," and then they're like, "No way, get him!" And then they like chase him in the same way. Like it's so stupid, but I remember hearing the music and going and seeing them and being like, "Well, they look cool as hell, dude," and that music was cool, and I just remember between that and listening to a couple songs on my buddy's iPod. Um, I just remember I didn't know, which is so silly because now these days, especially these days, I'm such a stickler for, oh, which album? Which album are you talking about? What's your favorite album? I didn't know any album names. So I'm
Right.
sitting here going, I remember I really liked Seven Nation Army and I really liked My Doorbell, but I didn't even know the name of either of those songs. I just remember Christmas going, I just want a White Stripes album. I don't, you know.
Yeah.
And I got White Blood Cells for Christmas that year, which is like, whew,
Excellent.
you know, because that front to back, that thing's loaded. And then that's when I realized that song, "We're Gonna Be Friends." That I didn't realize that was at the beginning credits of Napoleon Dynamite.
Really, I haven't seen Napoleon Dynamite in so long.
Do you know the opening credits where it's all the food dishes that with like the people's names written out and condiments and stuff, and it's like
Okay,
a
yeah.
lunch tray and this and that and a hamburger and a not plate of nachos and shit. That song plays in its
Nice.
entirety
I need to
while
rewatch
they're doing
Napoleon
it.
Dynamite.
I just watched it like a week ago with
Yeah.
Kin because Kin had never seen it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how have you not?
I saw that movie a couple of times, but I saw it like back when it was pretty new.
When it was new, that movie was like a phenomenon.
Yeah, it really was.
I remember being a kid in this very room. What is now my studio. This was my bedroom growing up from ages 9 to 11 and a half.
Oh, okay.
And I remember I had my little red TV down here, and I was watching Saturday morning cartoons, either Kids WB or the Fox Box. And I remember seeing commercials for Napoleon Dynamite and going, what is this?
Yeah, I thought it was very stupid when I first got exposed to it. I was like, this seems pretty dumb.
I was like, this looks silly, you know, but people were like, oh, it's so funny. It's blah, blah, blah. And so when it came out on DVD, I remember being like, Mom, can we borrow this? No, I was like, no, this looks dumb. And then it wound up being like one of our, like my dad even really liked it. He kept having to go back and watch the scene at the end where he's dancing.
Yeah.
And he would get shit-faced and watch that and laugh and laugh. Mike, we got to watch our part, you know, and it was so dumb. But anyway, that I didn't realize, I didn't make that connection until I was about 12. That's a White Stripes song.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be till a few years later, or around that time, VH1 used to do for years like shitloads of just random 5-hour countdowns. Do you remember these? That was like 100 greatest songs of the 80s, 100 greatest songs of the 90s, and the 90s one I sat and watched and absorbed, and that's how I got into Alice in Chains. They were my favorite band from like 7th grade to about 10th grade, and they're still high on my list. I still love Alice in Chains, but like Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Nirvana, Beck was a huge one, because then that led to me asking for Mellow Gold for my 13th birthday, back when Fred Meyer actually had a music section.
Yeah,
and that's just go find it.
And I borrowed that album from you. That's how I found.
I still have that original. So because I think by virtue of you having borrowed that first out of my, see, we have history. By virtue of you having borrowed that album first out of my collection and me gotten it back, that's the only one of my CDs that survived the Great Car Fire of 2012. So that one survived, which is so funny because that's my first ever like CD. Like,
yeah,
I guess
I'm glad that one didn't get claimed.
I guess technically, like, I bought a Nirvana I bought a Nirvana greatest hits album like the Christmas before that. But in terms of like album, not compilation or anything, that was the first one. Since then, I have repurchased or diligently found every album I lost out of that whole thing. So
I'm glad for that,
dude. Well, because in a weird way, when that car fire happened, and if you want, why don't we explain that actually?
Okay, so quickly, I had a 1992 Ford Explorer. Any car people that are listening might have already said yikes. And I didn't have a lot of CDs of my own. I mostly had CDs from my parents. And I asked Mike, "Hey man, do you mind if I borrow some CDs from you for my car for a little while?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, totally, no problem." And he gave me his entire CD book, one of the zip up ones with all the pages in it. So I was set. Well, I decided that it would be a good time to go shooting. So I drove my Explorer with a bunch of guns and ammo in it to like Nacelle. There's a place you can go shooting near Nacelle, Washington, and I put it in four high, and I went up a little gravel hill. And at the top of that little gravel hill, my car caught on fire, and it was a total loss.
It's not funny, but it's.
I mean, it was.
Like,
it's kind of funny in retrospect.
The way you said it was.
It was a barbecue. That rig ended up
a barbecue.
It was a barbecue. Yeah,
that's a good way to.
Yeah, actually, the firefighters that arrived on scene were scared shitless because it sounded like there was machine guns going off because all the guns and ammo in the back.
Yikes! Yeah, was your grandpa with you?
He was. Yeah, my grandfather was with me.
Damn. Yeah, I remember getting a message, and Mike, I'm so sorry, and I'm like, sorry for what? And I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. And it's just, okay, calm down, buddy. What happened? You know, and it's just, my whole car just went up in smoke and your whole CD collection is gone. And I thought you were pranking me. I was like, is this a prank, bro? You know, I didn't say that, I don't think. And then when you showed me the pictures of your charred frame, it was like something out of a Wile E. Coyote cartoon. It's like this charred frame of a Ford Explorer, and it's completely black and just, and I'm like, bro, whoa. And the whole time I'm like, dude, I'm glad you fucking got out of there.
Yeah.
You know, because I think when I was wanting to be an amateur podcaster and I had the most jerry-rigged setup of all time. Do you remember this?
I do remember this. This is actually not the first episode.
This is during that pilot episode 0 is lost to whatever, you know, forever. But
probably, thankfully.
Whatever it was, I had a page on Facebook during the cringe-worthy page community days where everybody had a page and everybody had an opinion on this and that, and nobody posted an OC or anything. I had a page called like Super Angelic 17 or something, and I started a Skype-based podcast called Super Angelic Radio or something. And my podcast setup consisted of me Skype chatting somebody and propping. I had an iPad with like a cover that folded open, and I would prop it in a way so that like it would just sit on its own and record the laptop, and I'd turn the laptop volume really loud and I'd just be like, all right, talk away. And I think the first pilot episode was you and me, and I could only record in 15-minute increments because of the video space as far as what it would allow me to upload to YouTube at the time. Because if I wanted to upload anything over like 15 minutes, it would just go nuts. So every 15 minutes I'd be like, okay, hold on, click, and we're back. And it's so bush league compared to now where I'm sitting here with an actual setup. But yeah, that first one, I think we just talked about. I just said, hey, you have the floor, tell me about your car blowing up. Like this is
that was right around the same time, wasn't it?
That was the same time. And I just was like, I gotta know what happened. I gotta know how this, you know, this is an experience, you know. And
yeah, it certainly was
crazy, man. Crazy times.
Yeah. So anyway, to expound on that a little bit, I have a slightly older parents than somebody normally would my age, and I'm also effectively a only child because my sister's enough older than me that she really wasn't in the house much after I was about 6.
Sure.
So really, my music taste until about 7th grade really was pretty much my parents' music taste, because that's what was playing in the house. That's what was playing in the car.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it. And then I discovered YouTube, and via YouTube and headphones, I started exploring music a little bit. And the White Stripes were one of the first bands that I really discovered for myself. And it makes a lot of sense, really, because my parents listened to a lot of classic rock and a lot of blues and a lot of blues rock. You know, we had like Stevie Ray Vaughan, for example, was on constant rotation in my house.
Yeah.
So finding something like the White Stripes, which was both unique compared to a lot of the things that I was listening to, but also shared the roots, and it had that bluesiness to it. I mean, it was like instant love affair. So that's part of why I chose Elephant for the first episode, because it kind of was like the beginning of my journey.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
For real. I mean, and I get the whole thing about like listening to what your parents listened to at the time. Like, I think I find myself now going back, because at the time, like when it's in constant rotation in front of me, I'm kind of like indifferent to it.
Right.
Unless, because I'm one of those, I guess, even as a kid, like unless I discover it and it's my thing, it's kind of like I have to come around to it. It's just how I've always been. So now I'm kind of coming back around in the last couple of years to really appreciating like early Billy Joel.
Okay.
My dad was so my dad doesn't have the deepest music taste.
Right.
It's literally Billy Joel, Barry Manilow. And then from there, it's like, there's some, I mean, he likes like just a lot of classic rock. I mean, he likes Stevie Ray Vaughan, but I wouldn't say I'd ever heard him put it on like rotation like that. But when I got way into guitar and talking about like how cool Jack White was and playing like Guitar Hero 3 and talking about, oh, Slash is amazing and all this other shit. I think at one point in time, I used to make lists and I would go, okay, greatest guitar players ever. And I'd be like, okay, Jimi Hendrix. And then I forgot who my number 2 was, but I always put like Slash at number 3. And then like, I'd be like, Slash is the 3rd greatest guitar player ever, you know? And number 2, I forget who I want to say it was, I kept putting Clapton at 2. I kept going like Hendrix and Clapton, unless there's like somebody I'm missing, and there probably is. It was because I thought the number 2 was an obvious one. But anyway, I'm getting off the beaten path here. So, but my dad, he was the one that my dad would mention. My dad would be like, "Oh, there's a guy I used to listen to all the time that I like, that my guy, you know," and it was Stevie Ray Vaughan. But his music taste is not that eclectic, you know. But for me these days, I can go, okay, like for Christmas last year, here's a best of Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then here's one that I think you'll like. And I got him like the Black Keys, El Camino.
There you go.
Which is just Black Keys is very bluesy and cool. And, you know, there's a couple songs in there I dig. And I'm just like, you know, Whereas my mom, and I can kind of do the same thing with my mom was totally different. My mom, very 80s inspired. Like she likes some modern stuff. It's funny because I always used to describe her music taste to my friends. I'd be like, okay, she likes, her 2 favorite bands are Depeche Mode and Linkin Park.
Okay.
It's like the funniest thing to me. But I learned, like, going back though, like a lot of the stuff I listened to with her as a kid, Depeche Mode and Roxette and stuff like that. I can, what was I doing? Information Society, who I think have they're one of the most underrated bands of the 80s. B-52s, who I bought Cosmic Thing on vinyl for Record Store Day a couple years ago. But stuff like that I can go back to and appreciate. But you had an earlier exposure to YouTube than me.
I did, actually. I remember my first YouTube video. Yeah, if anybody remembers.
That's so ridiculous.
My anus is bleeding. Anybody remember that?
No.
Okay. Well.
I don't remember it. That's so funny.
It's probably still up there.
I only ever had a YouTube. I didn't get like regular YouTube access because our internet connection was so bad. So every once in a while, I could hop on the computer and just look up shit that like I watched over at our buddy. I don't want to say his name because last time I said his name in a podcast, he made me take it down. But
wow.
Starts with a D and he moved to Texas.
Ah, okay, gotcha.
Okay. So that was the death of Super Angelic Radio
Gotcha.
because he was like, "You said my name. I need you to take it down." And I was like, yeah, but that's a part of an episode because I had to upload the 15-minute. So you're killing an
Right.
episode here. And then I was just like, I got pissed and I was just like, fucking, the whole fucking thing's going down. Thanks a lot. I don't even
That's
know.
all right.
I was like, I don't even know when I'm going to see you again. Anyway, so I would watch stuff at his house, and then that's where like Shoop da Whoop. I remember thinking Shoop da Whoop was the funniest thing.
Oh my god!
And
I haven't even heard that phrase.
I look back and I cringe. Like I tried watching the Laser Collection the other day.
Yeah,
and it's not near as funny as it was when I was 14.
of course not.
But I would take this stuff home and I'd be like, check it out, God. and even my brothers would be like, this is kind of funny. But like my brother was more enamored with, which I think honestly the first big YouTube video I remember all three of us laughing and dying at is not too far away from My Anus is Bleeding. It's literally called Fire Fart Gone Wrong. And it's this dude who's got like kind of a bowl cut and like a biker stash, and he's got like it painted in my head. He's wearing like a navy blue sleeveless cutoff shirt and white bicycle shorts, and he's like laying on his back and his legs are hiked over his head like he's trying to fillet himself, and he's flicking a lighter and he's going to fart, and then he just diarrheas through the shorts all over his hand. and he starts laughing. And I just remember Skylar, who Tyler used to call like the poop kid, because Skylar always used to somehow just talk about how sick something was. You thought that video was the funniest thing ever. These, like, to this day, he's like, oh, check out the fire fart gone wrong and look at that, and so funny. But I didn't get regular YouTube access till I was about 16.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because that was when I got the iPad for Christmas.
Yeah, I remember that.
So then I had so much catching up to do as far as this and that, But so I wasn't finding, as far as finding new music, I had my ways though. It was just snail mail. I had a subscription to Spin magazine.
Ah, there you go.
So I remember my first issue, I bought the best of 2009, December of 2009. And that was that. 2009 was such a big ass year. It was, I mean, you think about the albums, and this is just off the top of my head. Meriwether Post Pavilion.
That's coming in the future.
Yes, I figured. Meriwether Post Pavilion, Florence and the Machine's Lungs, Yeah, Yes, It's Blitz, which will probably be one of mine. Grizzly Bear, Vicadamist, Dirty Projectors, Bit Orca will definitely be one of mine.
Okay.
There's one I'm missing. Girls, I think it was Girls had an album. I just forget the name of it. But there was, I mean, Boom, 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 Boom. And I know I'm missing some. 2009 was such a Phoenix. Wolfgang Amadeus Phoenix came out that year. The Dead Weather, Whorehound, which another Jack White band. That was just a big, big, big year for music that I don't think we've quite seen one like it. And it was such a good time for me to jump into some of this independent stuff,
right,
and really kind of find my footing. And I had a subscription from July 2010 all the way through to like summer of 2012, and then they ceased printing the magazine, which was a capital bummer. But that was how I got my music fix until I had regular internet access.
Yeah, so for me it was early music discovery was very, very heavily through YouTube for myself. And then we had a record store come into town. Sadly, it is gone now. However, we had a record store called Classics, and that place really catapulted things for me quite a bit. Really didn't strongly consider myself to be a huge music fan, like, trying to explore and find new albums and things until that time, really. Once there was a record store in town and I started collecting physical music, it kind of skyrocketed at that point.
I would say, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like This is where I will say and to bring it back to why I brought up the Explorer Fire in the first place. That was a blessing in disguise as far as my, like my collection burning up was a blessing in disguise for me, because I don't think I ever really would have gotten so hot on collecting media and music if it wasn't for the fact that I had to get like 20 something albums back.
Yeah.
And that, because then I would build around it. And then you were with me, I think one day I found like 2 Pearl Jam albums and 3 Smashing Pumpkins albums at our Goodwill. Yeah. And I was just like, stuff like that. So in a way, it was like some kind of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hard reset.
A hard reset for sure, man. These days, I couldn't imagine if like 300 albums went up in smoke.
Oh my gosh,
my CD rack is bowing.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's
ridiculous. Like Ken's like, I think it's gonna break. I'm like, yeah, you have eyes too.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
We will. I'll buy something from IKEA, and it just means we got to set them up. Oh man.
Yeah. So let's get down to the albums a little bit.
Yeah, man, I'm down. We got our lengthy intro out of the way. That's very customary for an episode 1. We got the garbage out. We got
I don't think the garbage is probably going to be pretty endless. So get ready for that.
The garbage. That's a disclaimer.
Yeah. So, I'm not quite sure if there is a cohesive narrative to this album. You could arguably put one together.
Sure.
Based on the content of the songs. But really each one of these individual songs kind of tells its own story. And it does it well. And it does it while it entertains you.
Hey, on 3, name your favorite song to that album.
Oh, fuck.
1, and I'm going to do it too. 1, 2, 3.
There's no
Ball
home for
Biscuit.
you here.
Okay, I like that. That's a great great song too.
But I was thinking about Ball and a Biscuit as well.
That's tough. It's a tough choice. I think There's No Home for You Here is so cool because I love the way that he doubled the tracks and stuff on the vocals.
Yeah,
it sounds like
it just rocks. There's no other way to put it.
I was close to going Hypnotize because it feels almost like Fell in Love with a Girl Part 2.
Yeah, there's like almost no wrong answers here.
No. Black Math is
phenomenal.
Black Math is so good.
It's phenomenal.
I think the only reason why I go to Ball and Biscuit is because that's the song on the album, I think, where Jack just starts melting faces.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah, no, there are no wrong answers.
There really aren't. I
think Brady. I was talking to my Long Shots co-host Brady about that album because he plays a little guitar, and he usually goes to, I believe, "Girl, You Have No Faith in Medicine."
Okay,
he's a big fan of that one. Yeah.
It's just a great album. I mean, Seven Nation Army. Obviously, we've already talked about that. It very quickly rocketed from the hit off of the new White Stripes record to like cultural landmark.
I'll put it this way. Every sport, real or fake, they play this song. And
outside of the United States.
I'll put it this way. Wrestling, there's a guy, Keith Lee.
Yeah.
Who I think you'd dig. Just this he's just this giant mastodon of a dude.
Yeah.
And he's comes out and he does this thing. His whole thing, his song says "Bask in His Glory," and it kind of does. He's so much swagger. He kind of just, so glad I have this guy's shirt. He comes out and then the fans will chant to the tune of Seven Nation Army, and the whole time he does this like he's a maestro, and everybody's bask in his glory, and doing that live, and everybody in that stadium couldn't get enough of doing that. But that shows you we default to the Seven Nation Army thing because stadiums everywhere, football, basketball, you name it, college, pro, soccer, everybody.
It's ubiquitous.
And
it's like it has taken its place alongside We Will Rock You. Really.
It absolutely has. Like soccer, and you think about that. Think about the impact that sport has all over the world.
Yeah, it's huge everywhere but here, really.
It's unanimous. Every country knows.
It's the rest of the planet's football.
They at least know that riff and can chant that riff.
They might have no idea who the band is. They might not know the name of the song, the name of the album, nothing. But everybody knows that tune.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows that melody.
Absolutely.
Black Math. What is there to even say? It's just a great song.
I love the back and forth guitar work on that thing, and how much it kicks up.
Yeah, Seven Nation Army is a great intro, and then you have Black Math. There's No Home for You Here. Nothing is slowed down yet.
Right. And
then you hit I Just Don't Know What to Do with Myself, which is actually a cover.
Is that really?
That is actually a cover.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I should have taken notes. You could probably Google it real quick.
Yeah, I'm down.
I should have taken notes on who it was again.
I love his vocals on that song too. Wow. Oops. Do that.
Yeah.
And it's a song written by Burt Bacharach.
Yeah.
Dusty Springfield. Okay.
Yeah. And the original versions are actually really, really good.
I'm gonna give that a listen after the show then. That's awesome.
Yeah. Recommended listening for anybody, White Stripes fans, or just, if you enjoy good female vocals. She's excellent. And this is where I kind of start to piece together perhaps a little bit of a cohesive narrative in the album, because he has his Seven Nation Army, which to me, I read this as being about dealing with rumors and drama,
right?
And kind of wanting to get away from it. And then towards the end of the song, I think Jack sort of comes to terms with it and decides like, well, I kind of just have to live with it. I can't stay in Wichita and work the straw.
Sure.
I'm not going to make any more music if I do that.
Right.
So I got to put up with it. There's No Home for You Here definitely comes across as a breakup song. He's over it. He's tired of this girl that he's with. He's really, really sick of all her bullshit. So he cuts her off. And then I Don't Know What to Do with Myself is a song about loneliness. It's pretty immediate too. I mean, we go from this breakup song, this sort of like cocky, like fuck this girl. And then immediately after that, we have the like sorrow and the like, shit, maybe that was dumb.
And I'll tell you, he's a masterclass at writing breakup songs.
Yeah.
White Blood Cells has one, I Can't Wait, which is kind of that smug, I can't wait till you finally come back, girl. And I'm just like, oh man, yeah. Like he can write a pissed off breakup song, and he can write a sad kind of lonely breakup song too. It shows his versatility for sure.
Definitely. So once you're through with I Don't Know What to Do with Myself, you have In the Cold, Cold Night. Here we have female vocals coming in.
Yeah. Is that Meg singing?
I'm honestly not sure, because there is he had another female on to do guest vocals. Holly Golightly.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
In my head, and this is stuff I'm learning from an album that
I know she's done it live.
Because that's what I figured. Because sometimes you gotta fill the blanks.
Yeah.
But
I'm not sure if it's her on the studio version though.
That's really cool though. I mean, like, co-vocals on What's True.
Okay, so yeah, she's just on that. She's just on that.
She does.
Yeah,
that's really cool. Okay.
Yeah, so
but she sings with Holly Golightly on that other one.
She does, yeah.
Okay.
She comes in towards the middle of it, I think. In the Cold, Cold Night, you kind of have it from the perspective of another woman.
Yeah.
That might be coming in and vijay-vijayoing a little bit with Jack. And he takes the bait. I'm trying to build this potential narrative that exists here.
I like how I like the how kind of minimalist the composition is too.
Yeah, and it goes that way several times on this album.
And we've seen him do again, and I keep referring back to White Blood Cells. He's done this in the past, even on like a shorter song like Little Room.
Yeah,
which is just a drum beat and him rattling off his lyrics, you know, with that. Whereas this one, it's just that same didn't while she's singing, and that's all it is. It's wonderful.
And that really helps the pacing, I think, because if you're just going ham blues rock guitar solos the whole time, you're going to lose people.
Yeah, for sure.
So going back to building this potential narrative that I think could exist. 5th track, In the Cold, Cold Night. 6th track, I Want to Be the Boy to Warm Your Mother's Heart. So he has this new girl in his life, and he's like all about it. He's trying to impress the mother, which is a really, really great song for this displaying how emotive I think that Jack's guitar playing can be. And it's just an emotional song in general because he's trying so desperately to impress the mother, and there is no resolution. The song ends and he has not impressed this girl's mother yet, and he's just kind of bummed. Mm-hmm. Obviously their relationship worked out though, because he's got You've Got Her in Your Pocket here, which is slightly, maybe could be talking about like a codependent type relationship. Ball and a Biscuit is like, that's a very cocky song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole album really is kind of a cocky, I hesitate, especially in the modern political climate, to say slightly misogynistic, but he's definitely got that sort of sheen. You know what I mean?
There's a smugness to it.
There's definitely
the way that he
smugness.
sings. Yeah.
Hardest Button to Button.
Love that song.
Yeah, I read this. This is where my theory that there could be a potential for a cohesive narrative kind of falls apart, because I think Hardest Button to Button is pretty much about having a rough home life growing up.
Yep.
So that breaks that a little bit.
Okay, I will say this next one, Little Acorns, probably my second favorite on this thing.
I was thinking about that one as well. Before I said There's No Home for You Here, Little Acorns was on there, because that is such a creative intro.
It is. It's so unique. And it's one of those things. I remember I used to borrow Brady's big Bluetooth speaker at work before I just got myself a pair of headphones. And that beginning, when you hear, his name's Mort Krim.
Yeah.
When you hear his intro talking about this lady, once I figured out how to break my problems down like the squirrel does, and all that, my buddy Trevor goes, "What are you listening to?" And I said, "Just wait. It's like a minute of build, and then it just goes to this really meaty riff." And as soon as it picked
up, so empowering.
As soon as he picked up, he goes, "Okay, I get it. Yeah."
The message and the delivery is so empowering on Little Acorns. And interesting fun fact, actually, that Mort Krim intro speech was not recorded for the album.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was I believe he was a television anchor in Chicago.
Yeah.
Or Illinois at least. And Jack found a bunch of old tapes of his intros to stories that he would tell. I mean, he would do his like news stories, but he would tell them like a story. And he found recordings of that, found that specific recording, made the song, and then played it for Mort Krim to get his blessing.
Oh, okay. He apparently, Will Ferrell said that he was the main inspiration for Ron Burgundy.
Really?
That's insane.
I can kind of see that.
That's awesome.
Hypnotize. Excellent song.
I love it. Again, it's one of those things where he's so good at putting together these quick, heavy burns with music. And that's why I refer to it as like Fell in Love with a Girl Part 2. It's like minute 48 of just boom, 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 boom. And it's so good.
Yeah. Air Near My Fingers, often referred to as a very underrated track.
Very.
Again, love it. Girl, You Have No Faith in Medicine.
That's
killer.
Yeah.
And this one is interesting. It's an interesting subject for a song. And I think that he might be speaking in code a little bit. This is definitely a relationship album for sure. And I think that track 13, Girl, You Have No Faith in Medicine, might be sort of about how a lot of the times people bring you a problem and they don't necessarily want a solution.
Yeah.
They just want to vent.
Yeah.
And I think this might be him saying like, why aren't you taking my solutions to your problems?
Yeah. And that's one that I think anybody with a relationship can resonate with at least at one point or another, where it's kind of like, all right, you're not looking for an answer right now. You're just,
exactly. And I think that is taking out frustration over that. And then you have the ending, which is kind of a cute little ending. That's where you have your guest vocals from what was her name?
Holly Golightly.
Holly Golightly, yeah. That's where you have your guest vocals from Holly Golightly. It's just a little acoustic number.
Right.
Jack, Meg, and Holly on there. Kind of cute. Fun album.
Yeah, very.
Like 54 minutes. Great pacing. Listen to it if you haven't.
Yeah, very much. I mean,
good job.
If you've not, if you're one of those that hasn't really listen to the White Stripes, at least on a deep dive level of just going through a full album and not just a popular song. Because this is one of those things I've noticed more and more, especially with a lot of younger folks. Like my brother's guilty of it. A couple friends of mine, like I'll be like, oh, what album? You know, I've been listening to so and so. Oh, what's your favorite album? Oh, I don't really do albums. I do songs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I think that's kind of this YouTube era of just seeing what pops up, and it's I just know songs, I don't know albums. And
it definitely is.
For me, like having been such a deep diver in terms of albums, that's such a foreign language to me of just being like, dude, just why do you not just grab an album and see what you got? Like, I'm one of those that I like picking up one hit wonder albums and just seeing what else was on the album. Why didn't this band get bigger? And I find, you know, and there will be some that pop up here that you'll be like, or somebody will be like, there's only one song on that record. Why is he talking about? Because like there's cool stuff, you know?
Yeah. Listen to the whole thing. It doesn't take that long. It's not like watching a film, you know?
No. You could put an album on, and if you got a good pair of headphones, you can do anything.
Yeah.
Put an album on when you draw, put an album on when you write, put an album on when you're mowing the lawn, doing yard work.
Exercising.
Exercising. I listen to music and podcasts all day when I work.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy. I just boop, done.
Yeah.
I mean, so
and part of the album discussion and comparing it to a film, it you know, it kind of can be a little bit like a film, because there are albums that really work so much better as a sum of their parts. You know, the greater is, or the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Something like Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City. If you heard like one song off of that and you're like, I really like Kendrick Lamar because, you know, the song Mad City is really good. It's like, well, what did you think of the album? Well, I didn't listen to the album. That's like having a favorite scene in a film you haven't watched. You know what I mean? I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, hey, yeah, no, I couldn't imagine that, man. Yeah. Yeah. Like the final standoff in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Oh, what'd you think of the film? Oh no, I've only seen that final standoff. It's a great final standoff. It is. But it's like, but where's the, you know? Yeah. It doesn't deliver as well without the whole buildup. Well, speaking of narratives here, I've got my album of choice, and I was heavily debating what I wanted to do with our first episode. Do I default to my favorite band? I think that would be a mistake. The Pixies. Yeah. And I thought I need to save that. Yeah. You know, I could go here or there, but I really wanted to stay in the fire with an album that's been on my mind, especially recently, and one that I was recently revisiting, and that's Beat the Champ by the Mountain Goats. And it's one that I was introduced to it not too long after it came out. This was during my time of really browsing. I browsed a lot of Moo back in the day. Yeah. 4chan. And when this came out, I was like, Beat the Champ. That sounds very wrestling related. And I saw the cover and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't think that they were really going to go with a theme, a wrestling theme. And then I looked at the track listing, and no, they sure as sugar did, which immediately grabbed me, and I had to check it out. Songs like The Legend of Chavo Guerrero, Foreign Object, Animal Mask, Stabbed to Death Outside San Juan, Ballad of Bull Ramos. And, you know, those titles specifically hooked me in a way that I had to give this thing a listen. And over time, I kind of listened to it. All right. And then I'd come back, and the more I come back to it, the more I appreciate some of these songs. For once, and it's less of an overall narrative that blends every song together as much as it is really explaining territory wrestling from for the most part, outside of like one song, from the view of somebody who is in the fire right there and is doing it, is wrestling. See, pre-MMA, even like 1997, like the Montreal Screwjob, which was an incident in which the WWE champion, or WWF at the time champion, Bret Hart, he was in a match with Shawn Michaels, and they wanted him to drop the title because he was about ready to go to WCW, the rival. Vince signed him to a 20-year contract in 1996.
He then said, hey, we're on hard times financially. I can't honor your contract. You can negotiate with WCW and sign with them for more money if you want. So he signed with them for like $2.5 million or something like that.
Right.
But he was still WWF champion. And the Survivor Series pay-per-view is coming up. Hey, I need you to, we want you to drop the title to Shawn. Well, no, those two hated each other. Hated, like legit backstage heat with each other. I'm not going to lose my title in Canada because Bret's Canadian. So they go to a spot. Shawn puts Bret in the sharpshooter, and Vince has them ring the bell. And they screwed Bret out of the title without Bret knowing.
Yeah.
This caused a big stink. The following night on Raw, Vince goes on TV. We feel you're tired of having your intelligence insulted. Bret was supposed to do the right thing and go out on his back and lose the title, which gave away essentially what most people already had kind of figured out, but it for sure gave away and put the cat out of the bag that wrestling was fixed.
Yeah.
Back in the 70s and 80s, that wasn't so. It was a secret, like magicians, where it was just traded back and forth between wrestlers and stuff. And people, when heels did bad, there was legitimate heat. People thought, "Wow, you really did this," and that. So a song like Southwestern Territory, it just talks about the grind of your home. Rarely you're going to take a flight down south and fall asleep on the plane and hardly seeing your wife and all this other stuff. It sets up like a grim, not a grim, but kind of just a melancholy start to this thing. But by the time you get to track 2, The Legend of Chavo Guerrero, this is the one that I resonate with the most. Because it's a guy just talking about his favorite wrestler. He's talking about, kind of goes through his backstory a little bit with his family and all that. And then there's a line in there talking about, what is it? He says he's lying on the floor, bathed in the light, watching this black and white television in the middle of the night, and the telecast in Spanish, and he can understand a little bit, but he's just watching Chavo Guerrero, and how he talks about, hating all of Chavo's enemies and how he'd pray nightly for their death and stuff like that. And it took me back.
That track, Legend of Chavo Guerrero, is so catchy.
It's so catchy. Yeah, it's so good.
After you told me what album you were going to do for the podcast, I listened to it a few times, and pretty much instantly really liked it.
It's the first kind of instantly catchy song on the album, but for me, it just took me back to being a kid. Every Friday, because Raw came on at 9, SmackDown came on at 8 or 9 on Mondays, and that was bedtime when I was a kid. Whereas Fridays, bedtime was 10, SmackDown came on at 8, so I could watch the full SmackDown every Friday. Every Friday, I would religiously just 8 o'clock, boom, SmackDown, and I would watch it till 10, and I'd go to bed.
Yeah.
And I had my guys that I liked on SmackDown, and they were mostly babyface wrestlers and stuff. I was never like the big John Cena guy, but it was guys around there that I really dug. And I just, when you have your favorites, you're just like, oh, even as a kid, even in that era, mid 2000s, when somebody wrongs your guy, you're out for blood.
Yeah.
So it just took me back to being a kid. And even in the song, you can tell that the guy quit watching because he does say, I heard his son got famous and went nationwide. I don't know about that. So by then he's out of it.
Right.
But it's a song that, and an album as a whole, that I think you can resonate with even if you don't care for or pay attention to wrestling. It's a good explanation of how that stuff worked. Because then you get into Foreign Object, which is great, talking about in the 70s matches and brawls. They were pretty violent. Like there was a guy by the name of the Sheik. He was very well known in the early 70s, late 60s for bringing pencils and stuff and jabbing them into people's foreheads and stuff. So when he talks about, and the chorus of the song, I'll jab you in the eye with a foreign object, and talking about whip your head to the crowd, get blood on the front row, which is gross.
Yeah.
Especially, there was another guy, Abdullah the Butcher. His signature weapon was a fork. Brought a fork with him. If you see this guy's forehead, he's got like such deep from cutting himself the wrong way to get more blood. He's got such deep gouges. He could like fit coins in there and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's gross. Stuff like that. Animal Mask, you're talking about kind of his early days, kind of a wrestler's early days in the business, wearing a mask gimmick. He says that's when we were both green and we were having fun. Green is a term meaning like you're pretty new to the business. You're not really a ring general yet. Choked out, very fast, kind of punky sounding, which is, just kind of it almost feels like a rush of adrenaline, like you would feel if somebody is got you on the mat and is choking the life out of you. And then we get to, in my opinion, the absolute top song on this whole thing, which is Heel Turn 2. Heel Turn 2 is such a brilliant story in the way that it's told. And he goes through it, and you can hear when you hear his vocals, because he's got a kind of a higher pitched vocal. When his voice wavers on certain lines, like "You've reached my breaking point, congratulations," and stuff like that, he's taking you through being a babyface wrestler and how nobody likes a snake, at least in your kids' eyes, that's what they think. And I'm this upstanding guy and all this other stuff, and talks about making that heel turn, doing this dastardly thing once he's finally reached his breaking point after putting up with all this stuff, and how the president of the fan club is choking back his tears because he can't believe what he's just seen, and all the garbage and the trash is raining down. But the whole time he's got this refrain, I don't want to die in here. Every couple lines, I don't want to die in here. I don't want to die in here, which that is such a testament to that era, the 70s, 80s, when a heel did something bad, there was people worried that fans at any moment could storm the ring and somebody could get killed.
Yeah.
And most notably, the first instance of this that I could think of is in the 80s. I believe it might have been the Omni, but I could be wrong. You had Ric Flair and he had his group, the Four Horsemen. They were the most notorious dirty heels in wrestling. They were these four dudes, big shots, suits, limousines, high rolling girls, you name it. Hated, bragged about how great they were. And they feuded with Dusty Rhodes, who was the most beloved babyface, especially in the Carolinas. He was the common man. Yeah. He was the son of a plumber, and all this other stuff. And he was just this lovable, big, heavyset guy with curly hair. And he had this natural charisma, baby, is how we would talk. Oh my God. And the Omni, you couldn't hate Dusty Rhodes. You couldn't not love him. I mean, he was so great. Whereas Ric Flair at the time was the perfect foil, the pretty boy with the long blonde hair. And people loved seeing him get busted open, and that platinum white blonde would turn this crimson shade of red often.
Yeah. I'm not even a huge wrestling fan, and I'm familiar with that image.
Right. Yeah. Cut to a cage match. The Horsemen interfere, set Dusty up, break his ankle. They needed a whole troop of armed guards to get them out of there.
Holy shit.
Because people worried that they were going to get like stabbed, just for they've done this to Dusty, and then wasn't the first. I think it might have been after that. If the next attack they did, I can't remember if they did it before that or after that, where they broke his wrist or something. Like they had to film it in like a parking lot or something because they worried that if they did something like that again, that was it. Yeah. They absolutely somebody wasn't going to come out of it alive.
Right.
So something like that, a heel turn, where you're just breaking the hearts of these kids and these people who believe in you.
Sorry to interrupt you, but it kind of reminds me of like Bottlegate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking about
the football game where the
Browns game where with the refs and all that? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's how seriously people took it. I think one of the greatest examples you can think of, and it's actually mid-90s, this is just prior to the Montreal Screwjob happening, was when Hulk Hogan turned heel and formed the NWO. When he went in at Bash of the Beach 96, I think it was Bash of the Beach, dropped the leg on Savage and joined Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. The amount of garbage that got chucked into that ring for Hulk Hogan, who hadn't been a heel since his early days in AWA, which would have been early 80s. He had been not only the top most popular wrestler at that point, he had been the top babyface. He'd only been a babyface. He was very say your prayers, take your vitamins, listen to your parents, that kind of thing. But he caught on, you know, and he was doing TV and movies. He was like starring with kids in movies and stuff. Then all of a sudden, I was saying that for the money. You know, you take the greatest heel who at this point had gotten stale, but he's still this beloved figure of pop culture. And he trades in his yellow and red for black and white. And he grows out his black stubble. He keeps that blonde mustache, but he grows out that black stubble and he wears shades and he starts calling himself Hollywood Hogan. Oh, shit. Dude, you better believe it. And The Rock did something kind of similar when he started doing movies. He had like a goatee and all this other stuff. It's very silly. But man, it's like the last great heel turn that, you know, and that was almost 25 years ago, but in just how notable it was. And it very much, I mean, that's
why I think this show has value, because I really liked the music for this, but I didn't have the lore. I don't know the background of professional wrestling. Right. So being exposed to that, I'm probably going to appreciate this album so much more. See, I didn't even know what a heel turn was necessarily.
Yeah.
So,
well, and then you get to Fire Editorial, which is about a lot of the wrestling newsletters and dirt sheets and stuff like that. That would talk about, the towns and all this stuff with the wrestlers coming in and he'll turn this and change with that and blah, blah, blah. And there's a line in there that, because I love the piano in this song, there's a line in there that says, save this town, save everything not nailed down. Because the business was booming when wrestling would come in. I mean, the people you could draw with just territory wrestling. You could draw a 20,000 seat arena. It's such a far cry from what, I mean, up till recently we've had an indie wrestling boom, but for a while there it was not the case. I just kind of, more than the lyrics, I just like the musical accompaniment on that one. Then you get to Stabbed to Death Outside San Juan.
Quite the tone change.
Very much. So this is about Bruiser Brody. Bruiser Brody was a wrestler. He was a former football player, used to play for the Washington Redskins. He's very well known as kind of one of the first brawlers. Very violent matches. Mick Foley takes a lot of inspiration from Bruiser Brody. He went and did a wrestling match in Puerto Rico. And it's very well known that one of, I believe, I forget his name. His name was, I think it's Jose Gonzalez, stabbed him to death. Didn't do anything about it.
Wow.
He was this wonderful wrestler and a wonderful dude. Brody was in the locker room before a scheduled match with Dan Spivey at Juan Ramon Lubril Stadium in Bayamon, a city near San Juan, Puerto Rico, where Jose Huertas Gonzalez, a fellow wrestler and booker, allegedly asked him to step into the shower area to discuss business. There was an argument between the two wrestlers and a scuffle ensued due to the design of the dressing room. There was no witnesses to the altercation. However, 2 screams were heard loud enough for the entire locker room to hear. Tony Atlas ran to the shower and saw Brody bent over and holding his stomach. Atlas looked up at Gonzalez and saw him holding a knife. Due to heavy traffic outdoors and a large crowd in the stadium, it took paramedics close to an hour to reach Brody. When the paramedics arrived, Atlas helped carry Brody downstairs to the waiting ambulance, as due to Brody's size, paramedics were unable to lift him. He later died from his stab wounds. Gonzalez claimed self-defense and testified his own defense. He was acquitted of murder in 1989. The prosecution witness living outside of Puerto Rico did not show up, claiming that he had not received their summons until after the trial had ended. Fellow wrestlers Dutch Mantell and Tony Atlas have said that in the 70s, Brody and Gonzalez had wrestled each other. Brody had wrestled very roughly and beat up Gonzalez. SD Jones claimed that after one such match, Gonzalez said to him, "One day I'm going to kill that man." And then Brody's death was featured on Vice's Dark Side of the Ring, Season 1, Episode 3, which included interviews from Dutch, Tony Atlas, and Abdullah the Butcher.
Wow.
That was a sad episode. It was, I mean, every episode of that show is sad, but
I imagine so. So wow, I didn't realize that track actually had some lore.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was one of those deaths that, like, that's a guy that could still be alive.
Yeah.
Today. Yeah. It's
crazy.
One of those things that shouldn't. He was 42, man. Like, it's just one of those things that should never happened. I don't know. But even in his wrestling career, he was such a giant influence for people that wrestled the way he did. And he wrestled all over the world, Japan and everything else. There's guys that, like Goichi Suda, he's a game designer. You may know him. He did No More Heroes and stuff like that. Suda 51. he and No More Heroes, the main character Travis can learn like wrestling moves and stuff by watching TV.
Right.
He, when asked about it, Bruiser Brody is his favorite wrestler, and that's why he wanted to implement a lot of his crazy stuff that he did in that video game. Then you get to Werewolf Gimmick. This one he talks about most of the guys aren't going to cross this line. They wouldn't take it this far. You know, I'm too rough with people, and I grab and cut guys open and stuff, and I'm too insane. That's somebody living their gimmick to the extreme, and some punk baby face has some plan for a match that nobody wants to do. I'll teach him, and it like the unhinged sound of that song, it really puts you in the idea that this guy lives and takes his stuff so seriously, too seriously for what it was, you know. Absolutely love it, man. And Luna was a good one, very somber sounding track. I really enjoyed. And then of course you get to Unmasked. You know, with unmasking being such a huge deal in Lucha Libre, you know, when you put a lot of times masks are decided in matches via what's called luchas de puestas, which means something for something. Roughly. Mask versus hair versus hair versus title, title versus career. And both sides have a wager, which means that there's it puts that much more pressure on the match. It makes that match mean that much more. When somebody loses their mask, it's a huge deal, especially in Mexico, given that this guy, you know, he's Southwest. He was a fan of Chavo Guerrero. You can tell that he definitely probably watched a lot of Lucha Libre inspired stuff. He was probably in, you know, somewhere in Texas or Southern California, if I had to guess. And just the importance of somebody losing their mask like that is huge. And most times guys do not put their masks back on. Yeah. And once it's gone, it's gone. I think the only notable exception to that, I think, was Rey Mysterio, because he got unmasked in America and it was kind of for shitty booking. So when he came back, they were like, he just put his mask back on. And there's some people that are kind of mixed on that. Yeah. Ballad of Bull Ramos. Bull Ramos was big boy. He was a big wrestler in that kind of that Southwestern territory as well. Big time heel. But his feuds, the guys that he feuded with, guys like Bruno Sammartino, especially. Sammartino held the WWF title for about 7 years. Jimmy Snuka, Terry Funk, Mil Mascaras. Mil Mascaras is a huge, probably one of the biggest luchadors ever as far as masked wrestlers. There's another one I can't remember off the top of my head. This was a big one. You could tell this guy would have been a huge deal kind of in that territory as well. What's funny enough about him is his son lives locally. Oh, really? Nathan my brother lives in the apartment above his son, or like next door to his son. Wow. His name is Manuel Ramos, and he's Nathan messages me and goes, do you know who Bull Ramos is? I said, yeah, I know of him. I've not really watched a ton of him, but he's, you know, this and the song about him and all that. And his son Manuel like lives boom boom to me. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. Yeah, he does. And he talks about, you know, how he trained guys and this and that. I'm like, wow, holy shit, you know. That's really neat. Yeah, very. And then of course hair match. It's very similar to a mask match, you know, in the sense that, but you have all this humility on the line, and it really kind of borders on, it really kind of talks about that and borders on how much is really at stake, your pride when you're in that ring. And this whole thing from start to finish is such a well-crafted narrative just about territory style wrestling back then, which it's a statement you'll hear left and right. It's not what it used to be. Yeah. You know, even though indie wrestling has a boom and stuff like that, there's a lot of people that'll tell you sometimes it's just about people getting their shit in and not so much about like drawing a reaction. Yeah. You know, whereas you get, and because sometimes you just can't, you got to have people that are really, really into it to get the reaction that you want. And there's a lot that's been done, but man, I tell you what, you go back to this album and you can really capture that energy, the feeling. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Recultivate that, and I'm glad that you decided to share some of the lore here, because of course that
that definitely makes the album quite a bit more interesting to me. And it was already an album that I had absolutely no problem sitting through. So good pick.
Yeah, it's one of those that I love coming back to. I mean, I recently, I only bought, funny enough, I only bought the CD recently. It's one of those ones that over the years, I'll listen to it a couple times a year. And then I got to thinking about it and I'm like, I don't own this.
Yeah.
I have Prime. Let me just 2-day deliver this thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it needs to be part of my collection. And I'm glad I did. It's just, I mean, from a narrative standpoint and everything else, it's such a wonderful album. And it's unlike anything that they've really put out in terms of what the concepts are. I've gone back and I've listened to more Mountain Goats albums, but this is the one that it's just because of the subject matter and everything else. This is the one that I keep coming back to because it's just for just a diehard like myself. I have so much enjoyment with this thing. And it's really a special album to me.
Scroll down there. Let's see what the critics thought.
Yeah, man.
Let's see. Fantano gave it a light 8.
That's pretty good for Fantano.
No, that really, honestly, it is. Metacritic 79 out of 100. It looks like my vision's not the greatest, but
yep, you're correct.
Nice.
And Pitchfork with its hoity-toity 6.6.
Oh, who gives a shit about Pitchfork? Hey, if you listen to Pitchfork, don't watch us.
Yeah, that's true.
Go away.
Pitchfork has had some hilariously bad reviews.
Yeah, they're very, very, very pretentious.
Their one for Lateralis is like one of the worst things I've ever read in my life.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, no respect.
So first, okay, what's your favorite track from Beat the Champ?
Heel Turn 2.
Heel Turn 2.
Absolutely. It's I could say The Legend of Chava Guerrero, but which I do love, but Heel Turn 2 is something so special, and I get like goose chills when I listen to it.
The Frisian.
Oh my god, just You Found My Breaking Point. Like, if I don't have goose chills from You Found My Breaking Point, then by the time he says let all the trash rain down, boom.
Okay, so for the fans, it sounds like to me, if you don't want to sit and listen to the whole album, you should probably sit and listen to Ball and a Biscuit from White Stripes, and you should hit up Heel Turn 2 from Beat the Champ.
And then for your recommendation, There's No Home for You Here.
Oh yeah, that's a great song. But I think really to get the most out of your introduction to Jack White, if this is indeed your introduction, you can't go wrong with Ball and a Biscuit.
So what is your favorite from Beat the Champ?
Oh, Chava Guerrero.
Yeah, that's such a good one. So real quick, I wanted to talk about kind of our songs of the week right now, because the only reason why I really bring this up, and maybe we could start doing this on a regular basis, is there was just a new song that came out just a couple days ago, and I've been a big fan of this guy for a while, but it was such a good tune that I figured, why not? We'll do our songs of the week and this and that. So my song this week that you should go check out, and I'm not going to play all of it, obviously, but it's the new Tobacco song. It's called Babysitter, featuring Trent Reznor, and it's just, we'll all listen to it a little bit, and then we'll talk about it.
I love Tobacco.
So good.
They have such a distinctive sound.
Very. But you know it's him.
Oh yeah.
So that's my song this week. When I mean, what more can I say? It's 2 minutes and 17 seconds long. We effectively listened to about half of it here. And whenever, I mean, Tobacco by himself is great, but whenever he has a great guest, he produces these amazing songs that are really short. Another example that is the song "Fresh Hex" with Beck, which I think is from the album. It's either from Maniac Meat or Fucked Up Friends. This one right here, though, I mean, it's everything I could have asked for out of a Tobacco Trent Reznor collab. It is heavy, brutal, sludgy, but yet you've got that nice, refined smoothness to it, and you've got his usual kind of. Tobacco's got a sound I can't describe, but you know it's him when he's doing it.
Absolutely, yeah. It's so distinct.
I mean, if you want any kind of an example of that, like or any finer example of it, the theme song to the HBO show Silicon Valley. I mean, the minute I heard it, I was like, oh, that's Tobacco. You know,
I haven't heard that.
I'll play it real quick because it's like, you know.
Oh yeah,
you hear that and that
Instantly.
sound right there. That you know that's Tobacco. So yeah, I just big fan. He hasn't had an album since 2016. I've been following him since 2014. What was it? Ultima 2 Massage came out, which is just like
that was my introduction. Yeah, you sent me that a link to that.
Such a cool album.
It really is. I've
gone back and checked out like Black Moss Super Rainbow and stuff, and they're good. I just find myself really into Tobacco himself. I like his production and anything that he tends to have a hand on. He did an album last year with Aesop Rock called Malibu Ken, which was awesome. Anything this guy has a hand on, I'm really into. So I can't wait for this new album that's supposed to be coming out, Hot, Wet, and Sassy. I think that's out at the end of October. So that's my pick for track of the week. What about you, my man?
So I went back and forth on this quite a bit, but a track that's been stuck in my ear lately, and you know, it's overtly political. There's no way to avoid that.
Sure.
Which is part of why I was a little bit hesitant to choose it, but just in the spirit of what a song of the week should be, in my opinion, it's been stuck in my head, and I've been rediving metal as a genre lately.
Sure.
I really got away from metal quite a bit in the last few years. Started listening to a lot of like Animal Collective and things like that, and getting introduced to a lot of new hip hop. And as part of my rediving of metal, I was exposed to Ice-T's metal band,
Body Count. Yeah.
And Black Hoodie has been an absolute earworm for me.
Here we go.
Ice-T's delivery set to groovy metal like this just works.
Yeah, it's interesting because I wasn't aware that Body Count was still doing stuff.
Yeah, this came out in 2017. I actually haven't seen the video, so.
Dude, that fucking rips,
right?
I'm gonna give that full song a listen after the show, man. It's interesting because when I think like Ice-T doing the heavy metal, like I was aware of Body Count because of the whole Cop Killer thing.
Yeah,
but man, like, and at his age, he's still just put, you know, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
I'm giving
I'm like,
giving that a listen, man. That's gonna be great.
Sort of like raspy but bombastic delivery works so well set to a metal track.
It's cool, man.
It just has so much momentum.
It's cool, man, that he can still deliver like that because, like, I feel like there's some rappers once they hit the acting game and they start making that acting money.
Yeah. Oh,
you know, you think about like Ludacris and
there's so much more money in Hollywood
and
than music
Ice
anyway.
Cube and stuff like that. They kind of come back, but it's like, are they back? Not really. They're we're kind of getting the lukewarm version of what was once an intense dude. You look at like Ice Cube. Ice Cube's put out some albums within the last like 10 years or so, but nothing's going to hit as hard as like Death Certificate.
Exactly.
You know, at least in my opinion. But dude, I'm gonna give that a full listen. That's pretty rad. Yeah, great song. So we got our songs of the week. We've talked about our albums. Now, here's an interesting tidbit. Do we want to pick another album and go at it the same way next week?
I'm okay with that, but I'm not sure that I can pick it right now.
Okay. All right. We should do
something I got to think about a little bit.
It is something we got to think about a little bit. We'll give it a couple days and we'll come back because I'm not entirely sure what direction I want to go either, but it should be a good one.
Yeah, I'm thinking so.
It should be good. I mean, I have my headphones in at work upwards of 6-7 hours a day. So whatever it is, I'll have it down and pat and several times over. So
yeah.
All right. Well, I think this first episode of the show has been a rousing success.
I hope so.
And so are you, wow. I've been meaning to ask, are you down to do this weekly or bi-weekly or bi-monthly or whatever you want to feel like?
I think twice. I think every 2 weeks probably be the best. Give us some time to digest, take some notes.
So tell you what, every 2 weeks. So let's have our albums figured out that we will talk to each other by next Saturday. And then that'll give us at least a week to listen and discuss 2 weeks from today. So that'll be the 22nd. So if you like what you just heard, keep it real with us. Every 2 weeks, Saturdays at noonish, give or take. Who knows?
We'll announce.
And we'll keep up the music discussion. And as always, Long Shots Sportscast is every Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific. We're live streaming. We're also on all your streaming platforms. And this show right here that you're listening to or watching is under the Long Shots umbrella. Same channel, all the same feed, same platform. Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, you name it. It's all there. Apple Music. We're all there. So thank you, Jace, for joining me. And I think this has been the start of a wonderful future second show.
I hope so. Thanks for having me on, Mike. And I hope that we can continue to hone our product and introduce a lot of people to some good music.
Absolutely. And we'll keep, as we, maybe build a fan base, we can have people send in recommendations and have some guests. And it'll be a good time. So with that out of the way and said, thank you guys for listening, watching, and checking us out. And we'll be back on August 22nd with a couple new albums to talk about and some more garbage to spill. So take it easy, guys.
Have a good one.